for everyone in your party.
Hey, you want to send the end?
Now we are going to find on the right-hand side that's going to be an Okapi. Now the Okapi, famous for its white and black striped legs, does remind a lot of people of a zebra, but it is in fact the only living relative of the giraffe. And we know that because of its skull structure and its prehensile, that is its finger-like tongue that it uses to pull leaves off of branches. Now, the Okapi has been known to tribes and villages for generations and generations, but it wasn't, quote, discovered by the Western world until 1901. They actually thought it was a myth. Now we are going to find on the left-hand side, that's going to be a black rhino. Reclusive and solitary, the black rhino can weigh up to 3,000 pounds and charge at up to 35 miles an hour. Now, unfortunately, the black rhino is critically endangered. There are less than 5,000 of them left in the world, and that's because they've been poached for their horns. Many people think that they have scientific or medicinal qualities, but in fact they aren't just made of keratin. It's the exact same substance that your hair and fingernails are made of. So if the rhino's horn did in fact have any qualities to it, or medicinal or scientific, you could just eat your own hair and it would have the same effect, but alas, that doesn't happen. Now on the right hand side we are going to find the bongo, also known as the ghost of the forest because of how rarely they are seen. Now they feature white vertical stripes on their bodies that will actually trick predators into thinking they're nothing more than sunbeams coming through the trees. Now the horns that they have are backwards facing so they can actually move very quickly through the dense vegetation. When fully grown, those horns will make exactly one complete spiral around. They are the largest of the forest antelope. They can reach a weight of anywhere from 500 to nearly 900 pounds. They are absolutely gorgeous animals. Now, all of our friends here in the forest do require the trees and bushes for survival, but deforestation for paper products is going to take a very heavy toll on them. But by recycling paper and also making sure that we are buying products made with 100% recycled paper, we can stop deforestation in its tracks, saving these animals and habitats. Now we are leaving the forest and we're heading into a border territory known as the Safi River. Now the Safi River is going to be home to some pretty big and powerful animals. Many of them are going to spend the majority of their day under the water. On the left-hand side we're going to find some hippopotamus. Now the hippo just happens to be my mother's all-time favorite animal. She swears they look cute and cuddly, but they are in fact one of the most dangerous animals in Africa. Now that's because, please sit down. Please sit down, please sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, please. Full-grown male hippo can weigh up to 5,500 pounds. They're extremely territorial. They'll spend the majority of their day under the water to regulate their body temperature. On the island, we have pink-back pelican. Pink-back pelican got their name from the pink back that they sport during mating season. They also have a very impressive wingspan of 7 to 9 feet. On the left-hand side, we are going to come across some Nile Crocodile. The Nile Crocodile will average 16 feet, 500 pounds. Their jaws are strong enough to crush bone. They do mostly eat fish, though they have been known to attack anything from porcupine to a zebra to a smaller hippo to even other crocodiles. Hippos and crocodiles don't have very many, if any, natural enemies. Instead, it's going to be plastics being introduced into the water supply that is going to hurt them the most. By not recycling plastic, they'll end up in oceans and riverways around the world, hurting and even killing these animals. But by recycling plastic and also making sure that we are keeping single-use plastic far away from our daily lives, we can help stop that vicious cycle, saving these animals and habitats. Now we are just about to enter the savannah, which is home to some of the most iconic animals that we may think of. Now in a moment we will be descending right on down to us up close and personal with as many of these animals as we can find from a safe distance, of course. Now, there may be a time when an animal is just simply too close to the road for me to be able to stop for it, but I will try to go as slowly as I can, provided that we do remain seated and that we don't try to touch the animals or the foliage in any way. Now, the savanna is going to be an ever-changing environment. Grazing animals are going to act like lawnmowers, keeping the grass nice and short as they migrate through. Giraffes are going to act like garden shears, pruning the undersides of the trees to keep them nice and kept. And then any of the down branches and trees could have been made by a recent storm or even by an elephant feeling a bit playful or just trying to scratch itself. Now we are going to find a couple giraffe hanging around on the right-hand side. Now the giraffe is going to be the tallest animal in the world. They can reach a height of about 18 to 20 feet. Now they are going to spend the majority of their day eating and will really only sleep for about a half an hour a day. And they'll most likely do that standing up so they can better get away from predators. All these giraffe that we see are specifically going to be Maasai giraffe, and we can tell because of their spotted irregular coat. It almost looks like someone painted outside of the lines just a little bit. Now we are going to catch a glance of a baby giraffe over there, although it is hiding behind the tree. Perhaps if we get around the corner, we'll get a better view. Now, on the left-hand side, though, we are going to find some African wild dogs. Now, the African wild dog is also known as the painted dog because of its patchwork coat. Now, the African wild dog is one of the most successful hunters in Africa. They have a near 90% success rate, and that's because they will hunt as a pack and drive their prey to exhaustion. Looks like we are going to get a nice little view of that baby giraffe from right about here. And I think right here is going to give us the best view for everyone. Now, that baby giraffe is going to be about 2 months old. Born on June 29th. Baby giraffes will average 6 feet tall when they're born. They do also have a 6-foot drop into reality when they're born as well. Now, I will need even younger explorers to remain seated. Please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. Thank you. These termite mountains, which are the curious-looking smokestack structures on the right and left-hand side, are made of 3 very simple ingredients: soil, saliva, and dung. They'll bake out in the sun all day long, become as hard as concrete. Now, many animals will use them as scratching posts, and once they're worn down, a prey animal may stand on top of them to look for predators hiding in the tall grass.
They turn real hard.
Giraffes are going to have about an 18-inch long tongue that's a purplish-blackish color. Now, the coloring, scientists theorize, is going to be an evolutionary effect, that they've spent so much of their time eating that their tongues actually used to get sunburned, but then they evolutionized it so they would absorb the sunlight instead. It might be a giraffe.
That other tree. Right there, termites got a home. They turn real hard. And the animals use
Well, they're out even though it's so hot.
I wonder if he knows April.
You wanted to say, that little boy might taste good.
Look at the horns on these mofos.
Then he'll probably spit him out and say, nope, he's spoiled.
Now on the right-hand side, we are going to find some Kohli cattle with those extra large horns hiding in the trees. Now, the Kohli cattle is also known as the Watusi cattle after the people who domesticated them. They are the only domesticated animal on the reserve. Now, the horns that they have are neither solid nor hollow. There's a honeycomb-like structure inside that allows blood vessels to travel through and act like a personal air conditioning system.
Wow.
And once again, I need everyone to remain seated at all times. There is no attraction on the Walt Disney World property where you are allowed to stand, so please don't make this the exception.
Oh, so comes across.
Now we are going to find on this left-hand side, looks like a mandrill or two. Now the mandrill is going to be one of the largest monkeys in the world and the most colorful. They have red and blue markings on their face. The alpha male also sports it on its behind. Now the red and blue markings were part of the inspiration for Rafiki from The Lion King. Rafiki is actually a blend of a mandrill and a baboon. Now, males can weigh up to 100 pounds. Females, by comparison, are legitimately 1/4 of the size. They are only about 25 pounds, and they are most often mistaken for the children. But they are, in fact, just fully grown females. Now, there did used to be a bridge here on this right-hand side. Now, I never could prove one way or another whether it was a flood that took out the bridge or an elephant. But we do have to take the old service route now, which is fine. It's a long and windy way, but... Now, that is going to be an African elephant on the right-hand side. We can tell it's an African elephant because its ears will just loosely resemble the continent of Africa. Now, since it's alone, or at least seemingly alone, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's a male, because about 13 to 15 years of age, the male African elephant will leave the herd to lead a solitary bachelor's life. They may occasionally meet up with other mature elephants, form sort of a loose bachelor pad, if you will. They will remain almost completely alone. Now, we are taking the old service route now to get around. This bridge does always seem to look a little worse for wear every time I see it. But usually if I go over it just slow enough, it never really gives me that much trouble. Uh-oh. Oh gosh, oh gosh. Oh no, 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 no. Okay, I have to get off this bridge before it does something else. Yikes, 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 yikes. And alright. We made it. I knew we would. I definitely wasn't nervous for a second. Wow, that was weird. Well, anyway, on the right and left-hand side, we are going to find red clay pits. Now, red clay is eaten by elephants to give them extra minerals so they don't get through their normal diets of vegetation. Now, you can really see where the elephants have been digging out the clay. There's also a couple footprints around. I wonder if there are more elephants to be found. Now, the herd of elephants will be comprised of exclusively adult females and their children. The matriarch, the eldest female, will be the one to lead. She knows the best places to find food and water, and also those dangerous places to stay away from. As full-grown adults, elephants can eat up to 300 pounds of food per day. Now, they will also drink about 43 gallons worth of water. It is a common misconception that elephants drink water through their trunks like a straw, but in fact they just hold it inside their trunk before they spray it into their mouth. Now they are going to flap their ears back and forth to regulate their body temperature. There's blood vessels at the back of the ear that can cool them down by up to 15 degrees. Now they will also throw dirt and mud onto their backs using their trunks, and that will provide them with a natural sunscreen. It's because their skin is very sensitive and very prone to sunburn. Now we are going to find on the left-hand side my favorite bird in the world, which is the greater flamingo. Now those are the big ones. The small ones are ibises. Those are locals, ignore them. Now, the greater flamingo is the largest and lightest and pink of all flamingo species, but when they're born, they're not in fact pink. They are gray little fuzzballs. Now, they get their pink color from the krill shrimp and other crustaceans they eat that are high in beta-carotene. That is the same beta-carotene that's found in carrots. Group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. It always makes me feel like I should become a flamingo. Here we are. Now, for anyone particularly interested in hidden Mickeys, the island is going to be one giant one. You notice the 2 ears and the face. We are looking at it from the side, though. Looks like we are going to find some white rhinos here on the left-hand side. Now, the white rhino gets its name from the Afrikaans word vite, or vit, and it doesn't actually mean white, it means wide. And they're talking about the wide rectangular mouth that they have that's really good at grazing the savanna grass. They are also about twice the size of a black rhino. They can weigh about 5,000 pounds. They too can also charge at up to 35 miles an hour. And with 5,000 pounds behind it, they can do a lot of damage. Now we are going to find, looks like a zebra on the right-hand side. Now, if you're wondering if it's white with black stripes or black with white stripes, now I can tell you that it is going to be, I believe, black with white stripes. We can tell because of their nose, and that's because they are part of the equine family. So all you do is take a look at the nose and you'll be able to figure out their skin color. Now this rock structure on the left is called Okapi, which is just a natural set of rocks that extends up and juts out into the savanna. Now it does provide a great outlook for predatory cats such as lions, though lions are nocturnal. They're going to sleep for about 18 to 20 hours of their day. They do typically find a cool place to hang out in. Perhaps a... Now that's an ostrich on the right-hand side. Now the ostrich is, I would keep hands and arms inside the safari vehicle when ostriches are around. They can be a little aggressive and territorial. They are the largest bird in the world and flightless, though they can run about 40 miles an hour. Now, the feet that they have one solid talon on their webbed foot, and when they kick, it can actually kill a human. They freak me out. I really don't like the ostriches. I think it has something to do with their eyes, too. looks like we are going to come across another ostrich on the left-hand side and also some zebra on the right-hand side as well. We will be able to take a look at the zebra's nose so we can actually see how they are black with white stripes. Those are going to be ostrich eggs as well on that right-hand side. Ostrich eggs only weigh about 3 pounds each, which is the equivalent of about 2 dozen chicken eggs. Now, their shells are actually so strong that a full-grown human man could stand on top of them for a little break. Now, this section of the reserve is called Magadi Glen. It is a beautiful green, lush space. Now, the yellow-billed stork does love hanging out around here. They have about a 5-foot wingspan, but what's more curious about them is while they eat your standard frogs, fish, and lizards, because they are carnivores, they do also have a tendency to eat other small birds. They are very opportunistic eaters, may even trail behind a predator like a crocodile to snap up any leftovers, or something that may have been dredged up from the mud. And with that, my friends, it does look like we are reaching the end of our safari journey together. Now, I really must emphasize how much these animals are in need of our help. Anything from just recycling your standard paper and plastic to even in your daily lives. Making sure that the products you're looking to buy come from sustainable sources. That is, that they are good for animals and habitats, but also that they were bought at fair trade prices. Which means that the farmers and merchants were paid a fair and honest price per ounce or per pound of food. Here at Disney's Animal Kingdom, we do have the Disney Conservation Fund. Now, at any merchandise shop or food and beverage location, you might be asked to round up to the dollar to help support the fund. Not only will Disney match your donation 100%, penny for penny, dollar for dollar, but all of those proceeds go directly to conservation efforts around the world. And that's just one really super simple way that we can give back to save these animals and habitats. Now, if you do want to learn more about what Disney is doing to help save these animals, you can just simply go to disney.com/conservation and you'll basically get any and all information you could ever want about the projects that we are funding around the world. Looks like we are getting back into the village, which is going to be our final destination point. I would take this time to look around to make sure that we do have everything that we came with. Now, here in Harambe, we don't like to say goodbye because it is far too sad and final. Instead, we say kwaherini, which means in Swahili to go well. So to you, friends, I do say kwaherini. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Carl, and it has been my pleasure being your safari guide.